Hey, everybody, welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm so blessed and honored to be here with Simon and Arjun talking AI and mobility. What's up, guys? How's it going?
It's going well, but it's early in the morning.
Yeah, what time is it, Simon? Where are you and what time is it?
It's just after 4 a.m., so I'm really showing
4 a.m.
dedication to the cause, Ben. I'm in Perth, Australia, and it's despite the time, it's great to be on the call with Arjun and you.
Dang, man, that's early, or was it a late night?
Early, I did get up for this.
Okay, all right, well, good. Well, that's good.
It's not
Just
the
checking.
weekend yet, Ben. Not the weekend yet.
Just checking. Just checking. And Arjun, where in the world are you?
Right opposite to Simon, right? Like Houston, more close to you, close to 4 p.m., but in Houston.
Nice, nice. Well, yeah, fellow Texan there. All right, that's wonderful. Hey, get in the comments here. Want to know who you are, where you are, what the heck you're up to. We're going to be talking about AI. We're going to talk about the application of artificial intelligence in our industry. Is there a real application? What is that going to look like? What is that AI awakening in our industry going to look like? How does it plug in? What are the implications of that? Really excited to kind of process those thoughts and those what ifs here. Get in the comments. Let us know what your thoughts are. If you have questions from these, I'm going to call you experts, guys. Okay. I'm just going to call you our AI mobility experts here. We got people checking in. Hey from Houston. Look at that. Who's haying from Houston here? Let's see. Let me pull you up my phone here and see who's haying from Houston. Where you at? There's it. Holly Holmes. What's up, Holly? Good to see you. Look at this. We got Faye Hawksworth. Love Faye. Hello from Houston. What's up, Faye? I just saw Faye here in Dallas last week, I think.
Where's my Perth people?
Yeah, where's Perth at? Where's Perth in the house right now?
I think they're
Karen
sleeping.
Karen Walsh. Hello from Minnesota. I think that's in Australia. Jillian Guzda. Hi from Glomo HQ. What's up, Jilly G? Good to see you there. Anthony Hughes checking in. Hello from Detroit. What's up? Satya checking in. Hello from IND. Is that India?
India.
Okay.
Yep.
Not Indiana, right? I mean, just got to check. That's cool. We got people checking in from a couple continents here. That's great. Rob from Cambridge, Mass. Wicked Smart, Cambridge, Mass. Hit that like button, y'all. Get in the comments. I want to know, what do you think about AI? How do you use AI today? I want everyone in the comments right now to just give me how do you use AI today? Are you just using it for Chat GPT? Are you proofreading emails, or are you doing something more interesting with it? I'd really love to know. Rachel Longo, greetings from DFW. We got Simon Hood's AI virtual assistant. Please be joining you on his behalf. That's great. The only person that could deal with Simon. That's fantastic. People checking in. What's up, Simon? It's good to see you. 4 a.m. Wow. People respecting the game. That's fantastic. I got to ask
if you'd moved the time, actually, and I was told no. So
yeah,
no one's
no,
bigger than the club, Ben. No one's bigger than the club.
no, that's right. That's right. Well, listen, I mean, you wake up at 4 a.m. and we have a whole bunch of people watch. I wake up at 4 a.m. to do this. Nobody watches. Okay, Simon. So just remember that. Okay, nobody's bigger than the club. But I'm going to ask you both before we hop into kind of the bigger implications. How are you using AI on a day-to-day basis? I want to ask you that. Arjun, how are you using AI daily right now in your job?
I think the basic action is sometimes redrafting stuff, summarizing long articles, podcasts, etc. But I think the feature I love the most is the voice agent in some of these applications where you can just have a conversation with them while you're, exercising or whatever is the task, but just have a natural conversation with a digital agent asking about various things and like bouncing ideas, summarizing things, etc. I think that's one of the compelling ones I use.
I
Simon, what
guess
about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a unique position at the moment on a career break, so having a lot of time to play around with a lot of this technology as I kind of travel the world with my family. And it's amazing how often I'm using various different types of AI to, one, kind of do deep research on this area, particularly around the implications of business strategy. I'm just about to start a course with IDEO on getting certified in AI-powered design thinking. So I will know a lot more about that after the 6-month process of going through that. So my kind of professional interests really around the implications of AI for business strategy and for product design, but just as a individual traveling around the world with his family, I'm using it constantly for tax advice, immigration advice. We're planning, to settle down and kind of finally finish this 30 months into a career break. So even things like looking at possible schools for children, it's doing it all. So I used to go to professionals for most of this. I'd say now 90% of my preliminary research is getting done through AI, and I'm finding the accuracy incredible, which I know is not necessarily great news for people who are in those professions to be paid for immigration and tax advice, but I'm paying as well to check that the AI is giving me the correct answers and it's right. I'm yet to find a hallucination that has caused a problem.
You're literally talking to a bunch of people that offer immigration, tax, and destination services advice for a living, and you're saying 90% of it is AI right now, is replaceable with AI.
I'm not here to be popular, Ben.
I guess not. I see people getting in the comments right now talking about what they are doing on a daily basis, on a practical basis. Let's check in and see what people are using it for right now. I'm really curious to kind of establish a baseline. Faye Hawksworth, what's up, Faye? I've been using it for emails, but also for graphic flyer creation, and it's been a great tool. Yeah, for sure. So often we need to create artwork, in our jobs, with social media and all these dang positions we hold for these regionals. Jillian says, I use ChatGPT way too much on Google. Whenever I have a question, I pop it into ChatGPT. I have also used it to proofread and edit my communications to my boss. He does not know. So the thought is clear and well said. Thanks, Jillian. That's great. I've noticed your work quality's dramatically improved recently. She's giving me a finger in there. Is that a thumb or a? Yeah, that's a thumb. Okay. Michael Marino, We Move Pro is making huge waves in the moving industry with AI inventory capture. Okay, a little self-promotion, but all right, I get it. That's cool. I mean, we need that. I mean, I've been sweating in houses in the summer counting couches for long enough. Marie Butler, for work, I'm playing with AI to create models, explain concepts, compare job descriptions, and find the best job code for an H-1B. Okay, interesting. Rob Zeitz, anyone using AI to train new people on their teams, maybe supervise them doing tasks, grading them, and giving them suggestions? Are we there yet, guys?
I think for me, with AI, you start at a higher baseline, right? In the past, if you had to create that curriculum, etc., from baseline, you go to a tool and say, build me something in terms of a guide or an educational material. And you're automatically starting high level than where you would have. So your baseline goes up. But Simon, your thoughts?
Yeah, this was an area that was covered quite extensively during some MIT coursework that I was doing earlier in the year around how it has quite a profound effect when utilized properly in getting people up to speed quickly who are new to an organization or a function. So the data was pretty extraordinary in terms of what it showed with how quickly you could get someone, let's just say an easy example, in a customer service type role or an in-house mobility consultant type role, from knowing very little to actually being kind of fully functioning. I think the speed to ramp up was halved. And interestingly, though, when these tools were introduced to many organizations, say particularly in the customer service space, it actually had a negative impact on some of the highest performers. So there is like a double-edged sword to the use of this, because the highest performers tended to kind of start being a bit sloppy and overly reliant on using some of the AI tools within their work versus what they used to do in the past. But of course, the people who are brand new to the system or process or company were very much fully embracing them, and in some cases kind of outperforming them. which leads to bigger questions about, if you implement these tools, how do you kind of change some of these roles of people who are kind of your high performers within a business? Because arguably you would say that those people should really train the system and not interact directly with the customer. That's where they're going to have the bigger impact. So I think it absolutely can be really beneficial for organizations looking to ramp people up quickly and obviously assess and grade them. But you need to understand how to deploy the talent effectively in the future if you're going to use some of these tools.
That's super interesting, the point you just gave there about high performers using it and kind of getting worse, and new people getting better, and it's bringing kind of everyone to the mean almost a little bit more. Really interesting concept there. Rob, when you're talking about using AI to supervise, train, etc., I think about training, you needing the source data, you need training materials, right? And where do you put that? I mean, you don't really want to upload all that proprietary information into ChatGPT, and trust it to pull just your information. But I've started to see these AI tools that are licensed to your company only, so it has a ChatGPT like searchability of the general known universe, but then it also has your own data in there, closed off and kept private, and that could be all of your employee handbooks, it could be all of your new hire training, your onboarding, policies, et cetera, like that, financial data even for your company, that's kept kind of closed. So I think that, if we get to that, when we get to that, I think I could see this being used more for training. Kevin saying, I've used it for an exercise program, a story for my granddaughter, and then for email task summaries and to summarize and draft outlines for work. Yeah. Marie saying, I feel guilty each time I use it because of the water required for the data center. So I'm mindful of what I use it for. Is sustainability a real issue here?
I think a good point, right? How do you use the energy to produce some of the meaningful work? And at some point, I think all these companies want a lot of users to be onboarded. Right now, I think ChatGPT has an average of 800 million users a week. So they want everyone. I think there is a fight for getting more people on each of these platforms, ChatGPT, Copilot, etc. But at some point, there would be a rash. I think the free usage would be rationed, but how you use it should have a social and economic value, because there is an energy tied to every usage, like Mary is saying. And then even humans, we thank the tool, right? We say thank you, that was good, etc. Even that consumes a lot of energy when you aggregate that data. And Sam Altman once said, you don't have to thank the tool. It is taking a lot of compute. So I think fair comment from Mary.
Yeah, but we're all scared if we don't thank it. What's going to happen? It's going to have all this resentment's going to build up over years, right? I mean, I'm going to thank the tool. I think I'm going to thank it still and waste a drop of water on the thanks. But I got to ask you, how come we're worried about the water usage for AI, but we don't worry about the water consumption when we Google something? What's the difference?
I guess as far as I would understand, and Arjun, I'm sure can add to this. I mean, you're talking about a vastly different amount of energy used for that particular query. When we talk about interacting, for instance, with generative AI, and LLMs, you have this context window, and if you're using Google, your context window, you're going to put a simple query in, hotels in Perth. But often when we're interacting with, a generative AI tool like ChatGPT, I mean, when I've used these types of tools, I might upload a legal contract and ask it to review on my behalf. And that is going to use a vast amount of computing power, therefore energy. So I think the shift, of course, is a lot of these big data centers are looking to find ways to, procure more sustainable energy sources, and that's a big thing, in terms of an investment play as well.
Yeah, it makes a great point. So instead of just Googling one term, you're Googling every single line of this contract, and then asking it for suggestions, and it's generating. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Faye's got a question here. So, we like to take questions here, as they come along. We obviously have questions for you guys, but I want to prioritize the audience's questions because I think it's fun to explore their curiosity. Faye says, what are your thoughts on the concern around the use of these tools dumbing down our society? Similar to using a GPS, you get to where you needed to go, but you have no clue how you got there. Faye, that's how I got to work this morning. I've been in this office for 2 years in October. I still use GPS every morning. Don't look at me, Evan. I still use GPS every morning to get to work. Is it dumbing me down? Maybe. I love my thoughts in the morning. I also avoid accidents, but your thoughts, guys?
No, I think it's a good question, right? But if you look back, even from days of, there is this analogy, right? Calculators didn't make less mathematicians just because they were out there. Same way Google didn't reduce a lot of historians just because Google was introduced. And I was not around when Google came about in this demographic, right? But there was a story that teachers started banning Google usage for the students at that point, thinking, how would you learn history if you could search everything at a moment's notice? So I think there is a balance in that. I definitely agree with, even like mobile phones, our brain power in terms of memory has probably been reduced than all the numbers we were able to remember pre-mobile phone era. So I see the point, but I don't feel it'll necessarily dumb you down, but it'll probably free up space to do more creative work where the mundane task will be done by, for me, AI or agents.
Yeah, there was that old joke that Einstein couldn't remember his own phone number and would look it up in the phone book, right? And he says, I'm preserving my. Why would I remember something I could easily look up? I'm using my brain power to think, not to remember stuff. And so much of school I remember was memorization of stuff, and then just regurgitating it for the exam, and then of course after the exam, you don't remember it all. And now it seems like we don't really hold those facts in our head as much anymore because we can easily reference them. So, but now we get to think using our brains now more. Really interesting. Marie says, Simon Hood, I've noticed Google provides fewer results. Interesting. You need to start preparing for how it's changing the way consumers search. People now want one answer, not 10 billion. Website click-through rates on Google have dropped 32% since AI overview, and 43% of consumers now use AI tools daily. Yeah, isn't that true? Don't we want just give me the top 3 options, shortlist it for me, give me the best.
I think that there's obviously a danger with conversations around how much now, though, we put our trust in those final recommendations. Because if you think of how we used to interact with Google in the past, you would manually kind of go through probably 3, 4, 5 different websites to try and find the one that you felt was most suitable for your specific needs. Now we arguably kind of lazily rely on an algorithm to suggest what is the best answer. And I think maybe we'll talk later about, explainable AI and some of the ways that trust can be built in that respect. But yeah, we're in an interesting place because is that being lazy or is it more efficient? Is there a risk there that we, I guess, start buying into AI hallucinations and biases over time? Maybe.
Yeah, interesting. And I'm going to take one more question, and then I got questions for you guys, okay? And then we'll get on to the mobility specific application. Matt, I can't. That's a lot of Matt Gillian. Does the panel think we'll see AI truly upend any of the mobility relocation industry verticals by allowing new business models, or is this just going to be tinkering around the edges by cutting some cuts or adding in marginal revenue with existing firms? Ooh, interesting. So how's AI going to disrupt the business of global mobility?
Arjun?
I see some. So, just for the sake of argument, I would kind of quote a positive impact for the industry in each of the verticals, right? Today, each corporate you talk to, again, I speaking on behalf of the corporates. I don't know if I'm allowed to do so, but
yes,
everything
yes, you are.
for the purpose of this call, every corporate you talk to is lean on resources. It's stretched thin, too much to do, etc. So from that context, if we build these large language models focused on each of our verticals, immigration specialization, tax specialization, etc., bends of the world, let's say you were relocating to Australia and you had a tool that advised you on immigration implications, tax implications, both sides coming from US into Australia backwards. I think those are the areas where there is a huge potential to disrupt. Again, repetitive activity, so that again that brain power saved can be used on more human elements, creative stuff, etc. So I see a lot of positive impact that solutions can bring. Again, rightfully designed and trained, but there's a lot of potential.
I guess from my perspective, having spent a career heavily involved, obviously on the the vendor side, I'd say it'll totally turn everything completely upside down at some point in the medium to long term, because I think the nature of relationships that vendors have with corporate clients is going to move from a transactional partner to this kind of symbiotic data partner, and it's difficult to kind of state how significant that change it then becomes for commercial models, because you're not providing kind of a service for fee type interaction. You're totally changing the way that you would interact, partner, and add value for your client by leveraging AI tools to provide new insights that the business never had before, to make decisions, have efficiencies that previously are probably difficult to even dream about. So I'm very I guess, I don't know if, I mean, I think it's an optimistic future. People look at that, and I think some people will obviously be worried about their roles within the industry. But I think that it's something that has a sense of inevitability about it that needs to be embraced, but embraced with caution in terms of kind of looking at how ethics play into it, intellectual property play into it, and all these other kind of very huge challenges that prevent this future from being realized. So I think it's going to radically change the industry, but our industry historically, of course, has not moved that quickly. So in some areas, particularly as it relates to technology. So I think that it might take some time before the mobility industry and the vendor ecosystem kind of gets upended.
Well, you're right. Our industry does tend to lag a bit on the technology side. But is that also one of the reasons why we've seen a consumerization, I'll call it, of our industry, where we struggle to keep up with the options that you can find on Google, right? Oh well, gosh, I can just find a mover on Google, or I can just find international schools on Google, or I mean, all the things that you kind of just said, and Google's here, and the ChatGPT's here, right? And so, if we can't keep up with the Google ability of what we do, right, we're going to really be dragged well behind, what's capable with ChatGPT and all the other large language models, right? And so so I feel like that's really makes us susceptible to just the players that exist in the public space, because we kind of have this managed relocation ecosystem, right? Where we have corporate folks who pay for services, and they want their employees to have this certain experience, and this, from a duty of care standpoint and from a compliance standpoint, because they're kind of in it with them, right? And so they're invested in this going well. And so then they direct them to suppliers like Simon and I, right? Who try to do a really good job, and they have this kind of curated ecosystem of suppliers that are trusted and that meet the standards and the requirements and the compliance requirements and all the data privacy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then we see all this leakage of these employees out into the general marketplace because they're used to a certain speed, right? They're used to a certain responsiveness. They're used to like being able to just get answers right away, and we can't keep up. And so, does this just continue to expedite that migration of the business towards the consumer channel, if you will? That's just something I kind of worry about a little bit. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Simon and Arjun? Maybe Simon first, and then I'd love to hear Arjun's thought, from a from a client standpoint?
Yeah. I mean, I think that at a very high level, when I look at the kind of vendor or partner ecosystem, you can kind of almost categorize companies in these verticals into three camps: kind of technology laggards. You've got tech first organizations, and then, in my opinion, you have AI first organizations. And the danger is, because there is this void, and I say the danger to kind of traditional established players in different categories, that if you are a technology laggard, you're already kind of significantly losing ground because of the lack of efficiency that you have within your organization. If you're still trying to figure out APIs with partners, and that's the main tech project for the year, I would be concerned. The second group, kind of technology first, there's lots of organizations of their industry that have always been kind of heavy investors in the technology aspect of their business. In many cases, it might be because, say, founders have technology backgrounds, or they just have understood very early that that's going to be a kind of key cornerstone of how they're going to develop and grow and expand and create unique selling points for their customers. But now we've got, a plethora of AI first organizations that are beginning to kind of enter the industry in different categories, that are able to, one, kind of build a system from scratch with low or no code tools. Because of the information available to them, they don't necessarily have to have the same expertise that they would have had to do 10, 20 years ago in order to start that business in itself. And obviously there's huge amounts of capital being thrown at anything that has AI written on it. So I think that the risk is less for people who are relocating within the corporate ecosystem, because they're likely going to have a lot of new interesting tools getting offered to them, which they didn't have 5-10 years ago. But if you're kind of a legacy traditional operator within one of the many industry verticals within mobility, you need to change your business model probably quite quickly in order to adapt. Otherwise, I think you potentially could be irrelevant in a very short space of time. So that's my my impression.
Yeah, Simon, thank you for that. And Arjun, if your employee population comes to you and they say, "Listen, I'm trying to go here, like you want me to go, right? I'm trying to go here, and but I can find my answers so much faster, with ChatGPT or these other large language models. I can get it so much cheaper over here. I can get it this than what I'm being provided here." And of course, knowing that they have a tax, well, you and everyone is participating now in the taxability of these services now. So they kind of actually have an opinion now, whereas maybe 5 years ago, or 8 years ago, maybe they didn't have an opinion. So, how much, how likely are you to say, you're right, go pursue that, or do you still say, listen, stay within our ecosystem and our policy that we've created for you?
No, absolutely. I think as it stands today, employees, like you said, right, need fast answers on fingertips. They cannot wait 2 days to get a briefing from, again, I'll take your example, on a US tax briefing, another day on an Australia tax briefing. Can I get all of that at moment's notice? I have the mental space now to consume all of it. I don't want to wait 5 days just to go through the scheduling of it, right?
Yeah.
The problem statement today is that I need quick, fast answers to help me make a offer acceptance. Like, for me to accept my offer, tell me everything. Today, for someone to consume all of that details, immigration, tax, social security, benefits, what is medical, what is my tax implication, it at least takes, I don't know, 2 whole weeks, not continuously, but because to get on everyone's schedule. But if there is a solid tool in future, again, built by the current players, the current partner ecosystem that they trust, and put a stamp saying all the answers that come out of these models are the same answers we would have provided, I think either you're going to be left behind, like Simon is saying, you either invest and build that, again, not trying to be harsh, or you rely on human power
Oh, we're getting a little bit of a lag here.
to all these mobilizations that happen, thousands in
I think we're
There's
getting
a little bit of a lag in
Yeah.
Houston.
Yeah. I want to ask you. I tend to worry about stuff like this, and I think other people, do too, and especially when we talk about like disrupting categories and things like that. But I want to ask you, what areas will continue to be human first? What areas, no matter how pervasive AI tools get in our global mobility process, will continue to be very human centric?
Can you hear me okay? No?
Yeah, Arjun, I'm sorry. Yeah, people are suggesting that we actually replace you with AI if the internet doesn't improve. I am not that insensitive. I think that's probably a Brit that would say something like that, but that would not be something I would do. I recognize your value.
You told them I chatted that to you privately. Don't say that on air.
No,
I
but
know.
no. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Simon.
No, I was going to say, I know, Arjun, you've got quite a few views on this in terms of, what will remain the human side. So maybe you go first. Now we've
Yeah.
got you back.
Yeah, I think even with all the compute power and super intelligence that AI tools can bring, I think aspects like empathy, judgment, certain levels of creativity around unique situations, right? We still are in the business of humans. Not every employee persona can be predefined in a policy. You have so many personas or unique scenarios, and I think that's where humans will continue to be adding value in looking at. Again, I'm not trying to personalize, but wouldn't employees want that personalized support? Although corporations may say, I want one standard policy, a lot of governance around it, still the reality is you face unique situations. And I don't know if AI would be very singular in terms of how it thinks and say, I don't care, this is the policy I was told to push towards the employees. And that's where I
Yeah.
feel continuous value from humans.
I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense in theory, but I see the way that these AI, like ChatGPT, starts, empathizing and like telling me how smart I am and telling me like, gosh, if you ever need anybody to talk to about this stuff, we're here for you. And I'm like, you're nicer to me than people I work with sometimes. Like I feel like unless we start bringing hugs back to the workplace, like I feel like as human beings, we're getting less human sometimes. With all the tools and all the screen time and everything, we're getting desensitized to the human experience. Evan's gonna hug me now. Thank
But
you, Evan. I
you,
appreciate that. I'll
but,
take that
but you
offline.
prompted it, right? You told me offline. You said, "Will you be my friend?" So I think it's doing
Yeah.
that because you wrote
Yeah.
that, right?
I think it.
So
I
that's
think it
that.
is.
That mine doesn't do that.
Yours
Mine's
doesn't do that.
rude. Mine's rude. Mine's
You
rude
have,
to me.
you have
I don't
boundaries. You
say
set
please and thank
boundaries.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just to add on that, I think humans, right? The biology, you still get validation from humans. I think AI cannot make you feel more important. I don't know how that value comes across, but I think talking to people and having them as sounding board will still remain so fundamental to the human. I think the way we are engineered, right? Simon, what do you think?
Oh, I think Anna Palm had a good comment yesterday on the show where, in the age of, and we're not there yet, but when AI becomes kind of ubiquitous, the human or analog experience becomes even more valuable because if everybody is kind of, using these tools and nobody has to be an expert in certain areas to do things, all of a sudden the people who are actually there on the ground living that experience have a premium. So I kind of believe in that aspect. But I do think that many of the roles today that are heavily repetitive, that are done by humans, will reasonably quickly kind of get absorbed into different AI tools. And when I look at the industry, I think most of the companies or individuals that champion the human experience the most, and maybe this controversial comment, I think are in the weakest position to capitalize on some of these new technologies. And are clinging to legacy business models that I think are going to diminish quickly. But there is absolutely still space for, of course, the human experience and human interaction in the process. This is a highly human and emotional time when people are relocating internationally, domestically. So to kind of eliminate humans entirely, it doesn't really make sense to me. But the roles need to change.
Interesting. There's a term that I've heard, and I want you to define it for me. AGI. What is AG? I know AI, artificial intelligence. What is AGI?
So it's artificial general intelligence, but again, we are at the risk of even that becoming an old term 1 year from now. I think everyone is now on to super general intelligence. So in 6 months from now, you'll hear Sam Altmans of the world, the Musks of the world saying it has the capacity to do superhuman stuff. Because the way they tout it is AI, even as it stands today, is far more intelligent in multiple areas than a single human. If we take any one of us compared to an AI tool, it has so much generic knowledge as one composite system than any given individual in this on this planet, right?
Yeah. And yeah, I mean the framework, and I think, I mean, you kindly called us AI experts when we started this call. I can only speak for myself, but I don't believe that's true in my case, because I think in many cases we're all really trying to learn something that is evolving constantly, daily, weekly. So to be a true expert on this at the moment, I'd put Sam Altman in that category, and obviously people.
Well, listen, we couldn't get Sam. Okay, we tried. We tried to get Sam Altman. We settled for Simon
guy
Mason.
shows up.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. All right.
But
it was
the
supposed to be
I
Sam
guess,
and Arjun.
and he didn't show up, you know. So, but the point I'm really making is I think a lot of the terminology around how we describe this and whether we have it today is actually quite fluid. So, you know, if we had 10 of the panelists here that were from the field of artificial intelligence, and we asked them, do they think we truly have true AGI today? Half of them would probably completely disagree. Is super intelligence, you know, something that we will have soon, or is it very theoretical? And the classification I always go with is narrow AI, is, you know, using a generative AI tool, for instance, like ChatGPT or Gemini. And AGI, of course, is when it has human-like intelligence, and of course what Arjun is referring to with SGI is super intelligence, where the intelligence of the system actually exceeds that of a human capabilities. And that, I think, is the scary thing for most people. And again, depending on who you speak to, they'll argue whether they think that is possible in the short term, or something that remains entirely theoretical.
Yeah, the debate is probably how you define short term, because it sounds like it's one of those inevitabilities that you said before. People are chiming in here. Marie and Robert and Simon having a great little conversation in here. Is this going to drive cost savings? I mean, is that going to be one of the major drivers here?
So I'm very pro AI, right? So I will refer back to the corporate world where everyone's lean, they need more resources, they cannot have enough hours in a day to get to what they need to get to, right? So imagine that context, and if AI for everyone provided almost like doubling your workforce without doubling your workforce, and then a cost of a chat GPT sort of full subscription is what 1/100th of what a resource would cost you to do some of these boring mundane tasks. For me, that's a huge ROI. Elements like duty of care, again, there are some things we would touch, some things we wouldn't touch, but I think the value that you get from these digital agents, I'm really optimistic on those.
I guess just to add to that, I think, again, it goes back to that timeline. Are we talking short term, medium, long term? In the long term, if we were looking at AI just to make us do paperwork faster, I think we're completely missing the promise of what it delivers. AI will be able to put us in a situation where it's not just telling us how much an assignment costs, but who we should send and why. And those types of business insights, are priceless. So I think that there's so much more promise to what it can deliver than just relatively quickly taking away some repetitive manual tasks that exist within organizations today. That the promise is much greater than that.
I got a question about ROI. Speaking about cost effectiveness and everything, how do you prove the ROI on this when the main benefits like better employee experience are qualitative?
I guess I'll I mean, I'll start, and I'm sure you're going to give an insight from a corporate perspective. But I think the biggest thing is connecting kind of the softer qualitative benefits with real hard quantitative benefits. So, of course, it's relatively straightforward if you're bringing in tools and systems that are going to eliminate a lot of manual processing to show that there is a clear hard saving. And an easy example to point to within our industry today is, of course, some companies that are using AI very effectively to manage expense management within global companies. So instead of that manually being reviewed, that can be done using various different AI tools. Payments can be made instantly, and of course, the human error can potentially be almost entirely eliminated. The bigger picture, kind of like I touched on just before, is okay. Well, then how can you look at the value that some of these tools are then going to be offering for businesses and corporate organizations going forward that talk to more than just making things go quicker, faster, cheaper? And that's where I think that the real promise of AI is almost by definition, if you're going to engage heavily in this technology, you're going to have highly connected systems for it to be successful. And I think the highly connected systems in itself is the thing that will finally maybe unlock some of the promise of ROI for the industry. Because if you have interconnected systems that speak to each other, where data can be shared and unified, you're finally able to kind of make connections between things like, if I adjust, a benefit here, or I change a package here, it's going to have a meaningful outcome on the productivity of that employee. And these are things that, we've talked about for decades, and I did academic research around this area as well. But it was all talk because the technology and tools either were too manual, too expensive, too costly, or systems didn't speak to each other. In our industry, our data still remains today siloed in emails, spreadsheets, and different systems, including legacy systems. But as that begins to change, I personally believe ROI from some of these significant investments in AI will be easier to prove and much grander than we could possibly imagine before, in terms of articulating the benefit of talent mobility to senior stakeholders, both on the vendor side and, of course, corporate leaders like Arjun to their stakeholders within the business.
Yeah, really interesting stuff here. Rob's got a question. Is there a long-term cost or issue with not hiring entry-level employees to do repetitive tasks while learning the trade or company, right? Because, that's our pipeline of talent, that entry level. And then 2 years later, we look around and we don't have people to promote into the roles that have more varied responsibilities. So, are they going to create kind of these talent gaps in our pipeline because of over-reliance? How do we solve for that?
I think my take on that is just because we automate and delegate certain parts of the activity, it doesn't completely replace humans that still need to do some sort of a validation and create that narrative. And I don't think agents are going to present to agents, but you're using it as a digital assistant to help you scratch some of the surface level things or do some deep research, present facts, and you as a human are holding still the narrative. Yeah.
I got another question for Simon here. What are the biggest client side hurdles, would you say, to adopting AI processes and tools? Maybe it's poor data. Is it cultural resistance? Thoughts there?
So this, I guess this reminds me of conversations I've had recently, with some CEOs in the industry who have expressed, quite a bit of frustration around their willingness to adopt and implement significant AI initiatives within their corporate client base, but the resistance on the client side. And of course, that's going to be different for each corporation. Some companies and individuals and mobility leaders are very keen, have the budget and have the appetite to take on some of these projects with their partners. But in many cases, I think there's two big barriers and issues there. Firstly, foundational. The data, like I mentioned before, in many cases is potentially siloed, of poor quality in different places. And, there's a bit of a garbage in, garbage out problem. It's not as easy as kind of going into an organization that doesn't have really clean data. Now, if you do, that's a good start, but then there's a second barrier, and the second barrier, of course, is that cultural adoption. And touching on the point that you made before about kind of how roles might change, and are we going to get rid of entry level people, and what about kind of the middle management and all these different roles that are maybe on the in-house side? There's also a threat of kind of the great hollowing out within our industry and other industries, where you're going to essentially see our industry or other industries change, where you have these AI architects at the top and then basically gig workers at the bottom that just solve problems, do the point end solutions, and there's nothing in the middle. And then the mobility manager role changes from HR generalists to basically who can interrogate the AI the best. So yeah. I understand the fear as well, which leads to resistance to change. So that's why in many ways the way around that, particularly from a vendor perspective, is vendors probably need to be just as much as change management consultants as they need to be in terms of technology consultants in the future. Otherwise, they're going to extremely limit the ability to implement some of these, fantastic tools and solutions within their client programs. So yeah, foundational is the data, and second is the human problem.
Really interesting. Arjun, from your seat on the corporate side, what challenges do you see in adoption?
I think data for sure, right? If you're, let's say, fast forward and you have all these agents built to make decisions and interact with employees to say yay or nay, and if your data is poor, it's making a decision on poor data. So that needs to be fixed. Culture definitely, but I think cost is an element. If you scale a Copilot sort of tool for a 50,000 employee company, is the cost versus return on investment is something that is a narrative that needs to be explored, etc. But I from my own personal view, I still see a lot of value, but the barriers are cost and how it can be. So to give you a different context, ChatGPT today is a free tool, right? Anyone in the world can pretty much having access to internet can use it, and they automatically go 0 to 1 by just using the tool. So I don't think of large corporations for a second, but all the small mid-sized programs, and it's almost like a level playing field where you have access to this beautiful and powerful tool that you can engage to do all these baseline activity in creating documents, synthesizing or creating guides, synthesizing large documents, etc. So I know I kind of went on a tangent, but I think the barriers are those. I think over time, I think the cost, if it goes down, I see larger adoption. And for me, I still stick to this proposition that you're essentially doubling your workforce without doubling your workforce at what, $30 a month for Copilot full access. You cannot hire a human resource or an executive assistant for that price.
Yeah, good point. Simon, I got to ask you, as a salesperson, myself as a salesperson, I'm always thinking, listen, I'm thinking of myself, okay? I'm selfish, all right? Is this going to replace salespeople in the equation? I mean, is someone in Arjun's seat going to log into his Copilot and just starts, saying, hey, I'm looking for an RMC, must have locations, in multiple regions, needs to be able to handle employees of this size, amounts of employees of this size, these types of policies. Give me my short list and just RFP right to the right to the best and final right there, and have people and just make decisions like this on enterprise solutions. I mean, are we going to get there with it?
So I think already there's a lot of AI disruption in the business development space. Many of the tools that exist today that a number of companies use, of course, will record calls. They will make recommendations. They'll put together tailored proposals, and essentially they're operating as an agentic AI kind of co-pilot. Now, what that can do, it kind of goes back to the conversation around allowing people that might not have all those skill sets to operate in that role, maybe at a lower cost. So is it going to replace salespeople? I think people obviously always kind of crave a human connection. And there's a trust element with AI that wouldn't just be there if Simon Avatar or Ben Avatar showed up and you didn't show up and tried to kind of negotiate a deal. But behind the scenes already, I mean, I think that 90% of the administration, is changing or has already changed depending upon the level of technology adoption. I think that's a really good thing because a lot of it is heavily repetitive and manual in terms of updating CRM systems, taking notes from calls, thinking about which solutions might fit the client's needs. I think AI can do that a lot better than most humans can. So why not fully embrace it and use those tools? And you can then significantly expand your sales force with the same budget. So I don't think it'll fully replace, but it will totally change the way that I think maybe some of those roles are hired and what you're looking for in people. And of course, means quite a significant investment in some of the tools to unlock some of those capabilities.
I would add one thought to that and sort of an analogy, right? Just because spreadsheets existed for 50 years doesn't mean finance professionals are being paid less. That's just a tool, and I would see AI as a tool to do some of those activity where you then have the power to connect the dots instead of you being a collector of just facts,
Yeah, it's great analogy. You know what? That's a great place to take a pause and change a little bit, change gears here. You guys wanna play a game? Simon, I know it's early for you. You feeling joyful? You feeling like a game? You feel playful right now?
It's almost 5 a.m., so sure.
Yeah, right. If you can't play at 5, when can you play? Yeah, we're gonna play a little game called Overrated, Underrated. Do you know how to play the game?
I've played it with you before. I don't know what I said, but
yeah, I don't. It wasn't memorable. I'm just kidding. Arjun. Basically, the way we play the game is I'm going to give you a topic, and you are going to tell me if it is either overrated or underrated. Those are your two options. You cannot deviate, but you do have the opportunity to defend your point. And then, secondly, you should know that I will tell you if you are correct. And we will keep score because, why not, right? Let's see here. All right, Simon versus Arjun. All right, let's go here. Yes, the showdown you've all been waiting for. Evan, pick 5. You get to pick which 5 we're doing, okay? We're not doing them all. We're just going to do 5. Intern Evan gets to pick. He's high on sweet tea and highlighters right now. So go ahead, Evan. Pick your first one up. Man City FC, overrated or underrated? Simon?
Well, definitely overrated. As a Liverpool season ticket holder, I think that the manager's a bit of a checkbook manager, been given kind of unlimited amounts of money, and lots of serious allegations of kind of financial fair play rules being broken at that club. In addition, I think a lot of fans jumped on the bandwagon when they became successful a few years ago, which is not like Liverpool. So I think that very much overrated.
Yeah, Arjun, what do you think? Overrated, underrated? Man City.
Underrated.
With me.
Oh, he's going underrated. All right.
Just for the sake of it.
I like it. Contrarian. I respect that, Arjun. You are incorrect, Arjun. Actually, Man City is overrated. So, Simon, 1 point for you. Arjun, way to stick your neck out. You'll learn. Okay, here we go. Overrated, underrated. Next one up, social media. Arjun, you want to kick us off here? Overrated or underrated?
I'd say overrated. Because I think today you cannot control the algorithm of what it's throwing at you, right? If it was more of I take Twitter as an example, right? At least they did a better job on doing what you follow versus what is for you. For you is all the algorithm that they want to push at you versus what you want to use as educational. So the tool is there, but the algorithm is biased towards the organization that put it out. So I would say overrated.
Very interesting. Simon, overrated, underrated?
I will agree with the overrated. Although we often need to use tools, social media tools, LinkedIn to a degree, of course, being one of them. I think that I read a book a number of years ago, Digital Minimalism, by Cal Newport. I think if you read that book, for me anyway, within the first chapter, you're shutting down most of your social media accounts immediately with some of the insights that it shares in terms of the, I guess, psychological damage that some of these algorithmic addictive systems can cause. So there's a place for them, but personally, overrated.
Wow, a bold choice as we are broadcasting live on 3 different social media platforms right now. You are both incorrect. Social media is actually underrated, not because it's so amazing, which it could be, but there's a lot of danger. But I mean, I think just the power of it to even influence elections and other things like that is just incredible. I don't think we can overstate. Gosh, I mean, the amount. I mean, we watch more of that than television and everything else put together, probably. So, yeah, super interesting. I don't agree with it, but it is the way it is. No points awarded that round. Let's go to the next one up. Overrated, underrated. Human customer service. Overrated, underrated. Simon.
Controversially, I'm going to say overrated, in the sense that when I think of some of the easiest, seamless, frictionless interactions I have as a consumer, they're with technology solutions and tools that don't require me to speak and engage with anyone. Expedia, good example recently. Netflix, we all know examples. Amazon, where you never engaging with humans because the system, the tools, the interface is designed so well. You don't need to. So controversially, maybe overrated.
Okay, interesting. Arjun.
I'd say overrated also, because for me, if you can build systems that can work around different scenarios, it just ties into the quality of life. Because again, humans are behind on everything in terms of the digital debt. So I would say you don't need human in every interaction if you can build systems that work well. So in that context.
I frequently get dissatisfied with human customer service, but I do like the accountability. What do they say? One throat to choke, or one hand to shake is probably the more PC version nowadays. And gosh, when I have an issue and I'm going through like a chat bot, and I just kind of get recycled and recycled and recycled in this loop, and I can't listen. At the end of the day, if you're willing to just give me all my money back, we're probably going to be fine, okay? But if I'm really searching for an answer, then I can't find it, and I just don't have a human button, it's a very claustrophobic feeling of being trapped in this loop. And I don't know. I mean, you're right. If we can make it perfect and seamless, but it's not there yet for me.
I think the idea is you not needing a human is the perfect model, meaning everything works the way it should. The Netflix of the world, Amazon of the world. How many times did you call Amazon in for the number of times you use it? It just works. So in that context,
if stuff works, then you don't need customer service, I guess, right? Anthony Hughes says, yelling at the phone operator. Ha ha, yeah. Yeah, buddy. I mean, exactly. Sometimes you got to let them fly, right? And then they say, "Sir, don't speak to me like that. Sir, don't. I'm going to disconnect the call." No, it's so interesting because I'm going online. I'm trying to book tickets to the Cosm. We got this really cool Cosm. It's kind of like the Sphere in Vegas, right? We got it here in Dallas, and I was trying to book 2 seats, and it was telling me that I couldn't book these 2 seats because there was an empty seat next to it, and I'm like, so I have to, and it wouldn't let me book 2, and then I got on, and there was and the bot couldn't help me, and I had to go see this old man who was working the ticket counter, and he just made it work for me. But holy crap.
Although we might be losing this one again, I don't think we can use bad design as a reason to justify human customer service in most interactions. I think the examples often, of course, most people cite is when it's not working. But I think the more optimistic view is to believe that you can build something that will work.
Yeah, I guess not needing customer service at all, Yeah. That's interesting. I like the aspirational vision that you have of everything just works and you don't need customer service. But if I do, damn it, I need that person to be able to go fix it for me. So I'm afraid you guys get no points for that one. Human service is actually underrated, but it's got to be good. There's so much bad. Anyway. All right, we're moving on. Overrated, underrated. Next one up here, networking. You guys can't miss this. Let's go. Networking. Overrated, underrated. Oh, you're going to mess this up, aren't you?
So
I see it now.
controversial, but overrated.
All right, here we go.
Because
bold. I love the boldness from you guys.
flat networking, unless you bring intrinsic value in that relation, I think you're just trying to hit on a lot of people in networking without bringing something meaningful. But the moment let's say you were in an entrepreneurial mindset, if you were building stuff, creating stuff, imagine the attraction. So networking for me is chasing, but if you're creating and building, that's the attraction. Like you're attracting more people automatically. You don't need to go pursue a network artificially, is my feeling.
Okay. Simon, networking, overrated, underrated?
I disagree with Arjun. I think it's underrated. It's always been something that's been kind of drummed into me from an early age of my career, that it's something that you should spend a lot of time on, not just to meet people, make new connections, but I think the biggest thing for me is probably what you can learn from a strong network of peers that can be sounding boards, give you insights. And then of course it can help build, your personal brand and your relationships even further. It has like a networking effect. And I think to quote you back at you, Ben, I remember, I think one of the shows that I listened to, I think you were talking about what someone had said to you, which is it's not who you know, it's who knows you. I can't remember what show it was, but that stuck with me because, having an effective network opens up a lot of doors, not just to opportunity, but, insights that you might not necessarily get without having that close relationship or professional relationship with an individual or group. So very much underrated from my perspective.
Simon, you are correct. Okay. Simon's turning this thing around. He's getting it back on track here. We got a point here for Simon. All right. Shout out to the people out there. I wouldn't let you down. Okay. Networking is underrated. Okay. Mm-hmm. Your network is your net worth, all these cheesy sayings. But yes, I'm all about it. I wouldn't be here without you guys. And I met you all at a cocktail party. So thank you very much. Last one up, Evan. Adaptability, overrated or underrated? This is a softball. Arjun?
Underrated.
Really went out on a limb there, huh? All right. All right. Would you care to contradict him, Simon?
I'm trying to think of a way that I could disagree with that. I mean, it's just underrated in the sense that, at the moment, traveling the world with my kids, one of the biggest things that I want them to have is develop their adaptability, knowing that, the future is so uncertain and volatile that their ability to adapt to different circumstances is hopefully going to be very beneficial for them. So very underrated. But I think most people probably feel the same.
Yeah. It's got to be underrated. I mean, well, gosh, wait, if everybody feels the same, then maybe it's overrated. Anyway, no, adaptability, underrated. Everyone ends on a point. Fantastic. Well done, y'all. Great job, everybody. That's an absurd game. I just make it up. It's not fair. Nobody said it was. It's my show. Thanks, everybody out there for watching here. We got a couple comments. Marie Butler says, aren't we all in various human customer service roles? Yeah, Marie, but if, the systems worked well, we wouldn't need you. Just kidding, Marie. We love you too much. Nathan Brinker, representative. Hang up. Rob, networking is like building a railroad. You need to lay down the tracks before the train leaves the station. Rob, you're often really silly, but you're right. You got to do it in advance. I see so many people who get unfortunately laid off or things happen, right? And then they start to network. And I get all these people who reach out to me on LinkedIn. And the last conversation I had was 3 years ago, me asking them for a phone call, them not responding. And then, hey, how's it going? Been too long. Here's my resume. Got anything for me? And I'm like, yo, where you been, dude? Where you been? You know, so I just say lay the tracks now for sure, Rob. Start putting money in the social currency bank with people because you never know when you're going to need to make a withdrawal. Let's see here. Rob Zeit says, with AI tools, will we need to be as adaptable? It could be adaptable for us. Yeah, it could be adaptable. Yeah, you know what I think about? You know, if I drop my laptop, my chat GPT doesn't work anymore. But, you know, if I fall down, I'm still okay. So, dang it. All right, we're off the rails. Hey, this is a lot of fun. I've had a great time. Thanks everybody for getting into the conversation here. Simon, you want to leave us maybe with a final thought, and then I'll ask you, Arjun, the same question.
Yeah, I guess final comment really would be clearly we're both very pro AI, but I think that more than anything, I'd encourage people to get hands-on with playing around with some of these tools. Don't be scared of it. I think it is inevitable that they'll kind of come into all aspects of our life. And from a vendor perspective, I think senior leaders within the vendor ecosystem really need to think hard about how they can potentially use AI to create sustainable competitive advantage, which is very different than just automating the basic processes and products and services they do today. It's really thinking about, you know, how can they be different in a world where AI is ubiquitous. And only then I think there's going to be sustainable business models for many of the verticals within our industry. So very much pro embarking on this AI journey, but I think that people need to not fear it as much and get hands-on and embrace it.
Love it. Arjun?
I'd see it as a whole reliving of internet era, right? I think when it first came out, probably not everyone had a visualization of what it could bring about in terms of career opportunities or career pathways or new careers that, like today, right? That would someone have predicted that podcasting or YouTubing was a career in itself? No one predicted that. And in the same fashion, I think AI has a lot of potential. How we use it will redefine everything. And I feel, even though if it sounds controversial, I think it will improve the quality of life in many different meaningful ways. So it's only the time. Today, I think a lot of focus is on probably limitation, but we forget pre-chat GPT era, or where we were in just searching and jumping straight to answering engines and all these capabilities at your on your palm.
Yeah, I hope you're both right. I look forward to adapting and starting to use these tools. I'm already starting to use them a lot more than I was a year ago. So look forward to it. Thanks, Simon. Thanks, Arjun. And thanks everybody out there who got into the conversation. Hit that like button one more time. Leave some love for our guests today. And I will see you all next week, everybody. Take care.